إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام والسنة. All praise and thanks belong to Allah for guiding us to Islam and for guiding us to the Sunnah. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending the salat wa salam upon the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya ibadallah, it is imperative that we contemplate deeply over our life. It is imperative that we contemplate deeply over our present. It is imperative that we contemplate deeply upon preparing for our future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in His noble book, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكِ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. That blessed is He in whose hands is the dominion, and He is over all things most capable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. The one who created death and who created life, so as to test you which one of you is best indeed. It is imperative that we reflect upon this verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who owns everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who owns and controls the universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with all of His power and His might. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with all of His power. Allah Jalla wa'ala, He has created us. This by itself should give us reason to pause and to reflect and to contemplate. Because we have not been created in jest. We have not been created without purpose. We have not been created just as a thing of play and amusement. But rather we have been created for a great purpose. Allah Jalla wa'ala, He tells us that He created the death and the life. For what? So as to test us, which one of us is best indeed. The ulama, they mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He begins with death, so that we may reflect over our eventuality. Because there is not a single person hearing my voice except that they are going to die. So it is incumbent that they take advantage over that which was mentioned next. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and He created life. He gave us a chance and opportunity here to earn His pleasure by doing that in which He loves and that which He is pleased with. By worshiping Him and Him alone. By establishing the tawheed in which He brought us into existence to establish it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I did not create the jinn nor the mankind except for them to worship me. So the purpose and the reason that we are here is to establish the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. To worship Him and Him alone, without associating partners with Allah in worship. So we do not call upon anything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not pray to anyone except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not give any type of worship to anything except Allah. We do not worship an angel. We do not worship a prophet. We do not worship a rock. We don't worship a stone. We worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is one. He is alone. He has no partners. The one who he has no parents. He has no children. The one who there is nothing that is comparable to him in any which way, shape, or form. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing that is comparable unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is incumbent that we establish this ibadah. Allah Ta'ala, He told us, He created the death and He created the life so as to test us which one of us is best indeed. Ahsanu amala. Which one of us is best indeed. But before that, reflect upon this. The fact that we were nothing. Al-Hafidh ibn Kathir, he mentions, يعني بالمعنى والمعنى الآية أن الله سبحانه وتعالى أوجد خلائق. He said the meaning of the verse is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He brought everything into existence, this whole universe into existence. لِيَبَلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So as to test them, a test, so as to test them, which one of them is best indeed. وقال Muhammad bin Ajlan, he mentioned, وَلَمْ يَقُلْ أَكْثَرُ عَمَلًا. He says, and it was not said, which one of you has the most actions? Which one of you has the most deeds? No, that was not said. But rather what was said, أحسن, the one who has ihsan in his actions, in his deeds. When they asked Fudayl ibn Iyad about what is the meaning of this, he mentions, he says, أخلص وأصوب, that which is the most sincere, the most pure, sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that which is upon ikhlas, sincerity unto Allah, that which is devoid of shirk, it is devoid of associating partners with Allah, that which is devoid of riyah, is devoid of showing off so as to show others what you are doing, that which is devoid of sum'ah, doing things so that others may hear about what you are doing, that which is devoid of shirk in every which way, shape, and form, the small of it and the big of it, that which is blatant from it and that which is hidden from it, that which is devoid of shirk, sincerely for Allah and for Allah Ta'ala alone. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that every action is but by his intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Every action is but by his intention. Based upon your intention is how you will be rewarded or you won't be rewarded. So our intentions have to be sincere for Allah Ta'ala. And then as relates to aswabu, it has to be the most correct. What is meant by the most correct? He explained, إِن كَانَ لِلَّهِ فَأَخْلَصُ. If it is for Allah, then this is the most sincere. وَإِن كَانَ عَلَى سُنَّةٍ فَأَصْوَبُ. And if it is upon the sunnah, then it is correct. If it is not upon the sunnah, it will not be accepted. So the action has to have these two conditions. إِذَا كَانَ خَالِصًا وَلَا صَوَابًا لَا يُقْبَلْ. If it is sincerely for Allah, but it's not upon the sunnah, it will not be accepted. If it's sincerely for Allah, but not upon the sunnah, it will not be accepted. And vice versa. If one of those are missing, it will be rejected. It has to be upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddun." Whoever introduces into this affair of ours that which is not from it, it is rejected. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ عَمِلًا لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ أَمْرُنَا فَهُوَ رَدٌّ. And whoever does an action, does a deed that does not have on it our command is rejected. If we do something that is not from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, تَقَرُّبًا لِلَّهِ, trying to seek nearness to Allah by way of it, it is rejected. Because whatever is good for us, the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us. Whatever it is bad for us, the Prophet ﷺ, he told us to stay away from it. So we have what we need, وَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدِ, in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in the Quran, in the sunnah, and in the way of the Sahaba, in the way of the Salaf. It is incumbent that we internalize this and that we live our lives in accordance to it and that we prepare for our future and that we prepare for the future of the following generations, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us that إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمَ انْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ, that when the son of Adam dies, all of his actions are severed. All of his deeds, they stop, they come to an end, except for three. Sadaqah jariyah, a charity that continuously benefits the people, like the digging of wells, like the planting of trees so people can enjoy from its shade and eat from its fruit, like the building and establishment of masajid, where people can come and they can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they can learn about the deen, learn about the religion, where the children can learn about their religion, learn about their deen, where their aqidah, their creed, it could be instilled inside of them so that they have success in navigating the troubled waters of this world. This is of extreme importance. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, or a knowledge, or a knowledge that people benefit from. That knowledge which is taught inside of the masajid. Or a righteous child that makes dua for them. Now I want you to reflect upon this as relates to preparing for our future. If we put forth these righteous good deeds for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, bidnillahi ta'ala, when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will have much as reward waiting for us, inshaAllah ta'ala. So our future, our investment will be safe, inshaAllah ta'ala. And likewise, if we put forth these deeds, not just thinking of ourselves, but thinking of our children, then inshallah ta'ala, we will be setting them up for success. We will be helping them to also be successful and to carry on a legacy of being successful. I want you to look around you. I want you to look at the children, to look at the babies. I want you to reflect on what is going to be their situation, the world that they're going to see. I want you to think about the world that you saw when you were their age. And now I want you to reflect on the world that you see now. And I want you to contemplate and compare and contrast on how worse it is now than it was then. And every generation can say the same. When we in our day, it was much better than it is now. And you go back and it's like that. It gets better, better, better the further back you go. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that there is not a year to come except that the one after it is going to be worse. This is the reality. This is the situation. How many years now before they reach our age? So how much worse now, multiplied, is the world going to be during their day, during their time, when they're sitting in the audience, when they're listening? Not, yeah, see, now they get some lenience, huh? They can play around, huh? No problem. But when it's their time to be the women with the women, the men with the men, when it's their time to carry the banner of responsibility, what are we doing to help them? It is incumbent that we show them, that we put forth our actions for Allah upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we establish a legacy so that they can follow in. It is incumbent that we establish a legacy of prosperity. It is incumbent that we establish a legacy of efficientness. It is incumbent that we establish a legacy of prosperity so that they know that they have done it, we can do it as well. It is incumbent that we establish for them a legacy by way in which they are able to hold on to and cling to their religion so that they may pass this down to the grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren until the great-great-grandchildren's grandchildren, because each one learning from the previous one. It is incumbent that we establish a foundation by way in which they can build on and take it to the next level. It is incumbent, for example, that we establish a school K to 12 so that their generation may take the baton and take it to the next level and establish an Islamic university. It is incumbent that we establish, for an example, a clinic and network of Muslim doctors that work and cooperate with one another so that the next generation can take the baton, take it to the next level and establish Muslim hospitals. We all have heard Beth Israel Hospital, this one, that one, so on and so forth, correct? Where are our hospitals? Where's the Medina Hospital? Where's the Barakah Clinic Institution, so on and so forth, for pediatric care? Where is that? It is incumbent that we look and we understand and we dream bigger. But there is no structure that is built except that it has to have a foundation. And if the foundation is crooked, well, then that's not going to last but for so long. So it is incumbent that we reflect on our life, that we reflect that death is coming, that we reflect that we are returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we reflect on what are we doing with our here and now, that we reflect on what are we leaving for our children to inherit from us. That we seriously contemplate and we think about this, and then we get to work, purifying our intention, being upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and doing everything that coincides with his sunnah, and that we build and we build and we build. And building is not done by well-wishing. Building is done by hard work. Building is done by the kufi becoming tilted due to the vigorous work, by rolling up the sleeves, by spending in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by utilizing the full of our person to help, whether that is carrying bricks, whether that is pouring the cement for the foundation, whether that is just sweeping up and picking up the trash on the brothers who got the skills. Whatever the case is, everyone has a position, everyone has a lane, everyone has their portion of success. Everyone is valuable. Everyone is valuable, from the architect to the person that's sweeping up behind the builders. Everyone is valuable, from the person that gives $1 to the person that gives $1,000,000. And let me say something so that maybe you could reflect on it better. The ulama, they say that the person that has a little bit of wealth doesn't realize the power of giving and spending in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person who is a millionaire and they spend $100,000, a person will say, MashaAllah, he spent $100,000, but what percentage of that is from his net worth? What's the percentage of $100,000 of a multimillionaire of their net worth? They said, but the person who he only has $100 and he spends from that $100 $10. This person, his contribution is more valuable. Why? Because he has spent 10% of his wealth in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he spends $25, he has spent 25% of his wealth for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he spends $50, he has spent half of his wealth for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you look at it based upon the person whose contribution is more precious, whose contribution is better, the person that spent 50% of his wealth by giving $50, 10% of his wealth by giving $10, 25% of his wealth by giving $25, so on and so forth. So never underestimate a good deed. The Prophet ﷺ said, he said, fear the fire even if it's with a piece of a date. Even if it's with a piece of a date, if the date is all you have and you gave a piece, do you know how great that is in charity? So it is incumbent that we never underestimate any deed, that we give what we can, and let everyone give from in accordance to their ability to spend fi sabilillah, and not just spend. I don't want you to write a check to put money in the box and say, okay, that's it, I'm good. No, we need you here. First and foremost, to establish the ibadah of Allah in the ranks with the believers. And we need you here for your ideas, your thoughts, your contributions, your suggestions. We need you here to physically help carry what needs to be carried, to organize what needs to be organized. We need you here because you are precious. And for the Muslim community, you are from our greatest assets. Our greatest assets. So it is incumbent that we reflect upon this and that we know that unto Allah is our return. هذا أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولجميع المسلمين فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.